Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here today with Robert Bob Glazer. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Yeah, you've found my alias.
Bob. Just ask Bob. So, Robert Glazer is a founder and chairman of the board of Acceleration Partners, a global leader in partnership marketing. He also co-founded and chaired BrandCycle, which was acquired by Stack Commerce TPG in 2021. A serial entrepreneur and award-winning executive, Robert is passionate about helping individuals and organizations elevate their performance. Under his leadership, Acceleration Partners garnered numerous accolades, including Glassdoor's Employees' Choice Awards, Entrepreneur's Top Company Culture, Inc.'s Best Place to Work, and Fortune's Best Small and Medium Workplaces. Robert himself was named twice to Glassdoor's list of top CEOs for small and medium companies in the US, ranking number 2. Robert shares his insights through Friday Forward, a weekly inspirational newsletter reaching out to 200,000 readers in more than 100 countries. He is also the number one Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and international best-selling author of 7 books, including Elevate, Friday Forward, Elevate Your Team, and How to Thrive in the Virtual Workplace. Additionally, Robert hosts the Elevate podcast, a top 1% show on business, performance, and leadership with over 3 million downloads globally. His work has been featured in outlets such as Harvard Business Review, The Today Show, Business Insider, Fast Company, Inc., Forbes, and Entrepreneur. Robert speaks to audiences around the world on topics of leadership, culture, and personal and professional development, and has also spoken on the TEDx stage. Outside work, Robert enjoys skiing, cycling, reading, traveling, spending quality time with his father, and overseeing home renovation projects. To learn more about his writing, speaking, or partnerships opportunities, please visit robertglazer.com. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks for having me, Debbie.
You're welcome. So my first question is your son going to go to the Super Bowl this weekend?
Probably not. He's pushing, but it's a lot of travel and a lot of money. We had the experience. We went when he was younger. They won. It was the greatest Super Bowl ever. And of course, it's like when you play with a little kid, and they just ask for more.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
They're like, why not? We did it
good.
before,
I just
Dad.
threw you up and down for 10 minutes. More.
Exactly. Well, I'm 20 minutes away from San Francisco, and I was there on Monday, and the traffic was horrendous. So I will not be going near San Francisco or the South
Yeah,
Bay.
you probably want to get really far away from there.
Yeah. So, okay. First of all, did you know when you were growing up what you want? Did you have an idea what you wanted to do? And did you know where you are today? When you were younger, did you think you would be where you are today?
I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because my dad was a lawyer. I don't know if I knew what lawyers did. I think most kids assume that lawyers go to court because they watch LA Law or whatever it was, but he was a real estate lawyer. So I went to college fully thinking I would go to law school and be a lawyer. But then I realized kind of my passions. The first sort of realization was my passions were around business and marketing and then later leadership. So no, I'm not sure I would have expected where I am right now.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up right outside of Boston in a town called Brookline.
Okay, so you stayed local and you're still nearby today.
I have not made it far. I'm about 12 minutes from where I grew up.
I can say that's the same for me. I grew up in Piedmont and I'm about 5 minutes from where I grew up. So
Perfect.
you have done a lot. I don't even know where to begin. So let's start. Did you have a day job before you started writing books? Give us a little cycle of where you started in your professional life.
Yeah, I started working for other people, helping them grow their businesses. I liked growing businesses. I liked fast growing businesses, but then I realized that wasn't a great role for me, sort of helping other people grow their businesses. And I became, as one mentor said, unemployable. And so I started a couple different businesses, the largest of which is a global partner marketing firm called Acceleration Partners. And as I was building that firm and trying to do some things differently, I started writing in our industry and writing about culture and the things that we were doing, and it resonated with people. And I actually the writing really got turbocharged from a email that I would send every Friday to my team. That was just sort of a kind of inspirational thought piece. It wasn't about our business. That email started being shared outside the organization, and within a couple years, it was Friday Forward with a couple 100,000 people subscribed to it, and so that sort of encouraged me to take some of those stories and anecdotes and turn it into books.
Wow, that's incredible. So tell us a little bit more about Acceleration Partners.
Yeah, so Acceleration Partners is about a 300 person global affiliate and partner marketing firm. We help, it's a very niche thing that we've become kind of global experts in. We help companies build digital partnerships. Typically, historically, was called affiliate programs, now partner programs, where people are paid on the performance of the work that they do. So you recruit hundreds and thousands of partners, you work with them, you get them the tools they need, they promote your products and services online, and they get paid. This is sort of the early precursor to influencer, all those blogs and review sites saying these are the best TVs you should buy and the best strollers and the reviews. Like, none of those people did that out of the goodness of their heart. If you clicked on that and you bought something, they got a paid a percentage of that sale.
All right, sounds interesting. So what is BrandCycle? You've done a lot here, so I'm gonna have to go through them all.
BrandCycle was sort of an inverse of Acceleration Partners. We represented sellers at Acceleration Partners, and people would come up to us and ask us if we could support kind of the partners or the buyer side, and we started to do that, but it was just weird. It was kind of like dual agency. So eventually, we spun that off into its own company that figured out how to bring more partners into the affiliate space and work with brands. We were brands looking to work with partners, and so we spun that off into a different company, and it had a crazy couple years of ups and downs, and did great during COVID, and is now part of another organization.
So, how do people get on your newsletter for Friday Forward? Because it sounds incredible.
Hmm. Yeah, that's easy. You can go to robertglazer.com and you can sign up for it, or um, you can Google Friday Forward and you would probably find it too.
Awesome. I love those sorts of things. So, you wrote 7 books, and how I wrote a couple books, and they all happened because of something inspired me to write them. Do you have a story about how you started your first book, or why and how it happened? Because I think a lot of people have books inside of them, and some
Yeah.
initiate and act on, and others don't. So share that with our audience.
My first book was actually a marketing book about our industry, and I thought our industry was like really misunderstood. And I had written some poignant articles that had gotten attention, and people would always say, "Well, isn't affiliate marketing this?" And I'd have to explain it. And so I was like, "Why don't I just write a book and explain to people what it is and what it's not? And why don't I own the best parts of it?" Kind of like a self-deprecating lawyer. And so I think when all the books in the industry were very marketing scammy, and when people read it, it said, "Look, here's what you've heard about it. Here are the problems. I agree with it." And it went through the evolutions and where the opportunity was. And it what had happened is it ended up being like the training manual at every company in our industry, who, when they hired people, they'd say, "Look, if you haven't done anything, before in this space, you need to read this book, because you'll understand who the players were otherwise." So it really was able to elevate our company's visibility and reputation. A lot of people will talk about, know why you're writing a book. Like, that book wasn't about making money on selling the books, right? It was a book about affiliate marketing, but that served as a calling card, and we were the company that wrote the book. And when people wanted to hire us, you would hire the company that wrote the book.
And that's the book called Elevate, correct?
No, that's the book called Performance Partnership. So that was my first book was a
Oh,
marketing book, and I had that in my head for years. And actually, like you said, I told people for years I'm going to write a book, and I was at an event that I would go to every year with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I was like, "Look, like, I'm just not going to come back next year without having written this book." And changing "I want to write a book" to "I'm going to write a book," and then it became all about the how, really was the kind of differentiator.
right. And that's called the hand guide that people read is performance. Say the
Partnerships was my initial
partnership.
marketing book, yeah.
Okay,
And then
that's
Elevate
great.
was my first leadership book, and it came from trying to pull together a bunch of the Friday forwards and write a compilation book. And everyone was like, yeah, we like your writing, but we don't want a compilation book. And so an editor challenged me to think about what were the messages in that book. And I spent about a year rewriting those and came up with a framework behind Elevate.
Awesome. I love it. One of the things you said I completely relate to. The question I'd asked you is how did they happen? And when something's in my head, I have to get it out. And it sounded like that
Yeah.
was with your book. You're like, it's in my head, I have to get it out. And it helps a lot of people. I love it.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people ask me about writing and their business or otherwise, and I'm always like, "Look, what are the things that people constantly ask you about? What is the
yeah,
vice you're constantly repeating and you sound like you're saying it for the first time?" And actually, if you could point to an article you wrote 2 years ago on the same topic, you would have a
true.
lot more credibility on that, right? We would have this wasn't a book, but we would have articles where people are like, look, you guys are performance, so can't we pay you performance only for a year? And I could give them the answer, or I could point them this article that says people come to us all the time and say this. And then they go talk to their marketing departments and their finance teams, and they tell them they don't want to do that. And we can do it, but then we need to collect something on the back end. And then your legal team's going to say, we don't want a contract that's 2 years old. So we end up back to some sort of hybrid thing and not performance only. And so rather than giving that speech to someone and making it sound like it's an answer to them, they can see an article dated from 2 years ago that clearly this is a topic of conversation that comes up a lot, and it's not the regular way that people do things.
Absolutely. It's so great. So sometimes I just Google something that's been asking me a number of times, and I'll just Google myself with a little bit of information, and I'll be able to go back and find that. So it's so true. And I know you have your books, but is there a place that if someone did ask you some of those questions, you would refer them to? Is it like right now I'm writing on Substack a lot. Is there a place that you tend to write
Yeah,
for these topics?
Friday Forward is on Substack, and I have a free one and a paid one, and so I'll publish short and more tactical things to my paid audience and other ones to my free audience. So yeah, there's tons of articles up on there.
Yeah, I love Substack. So I'm writing a book right now. It's called The Mindset in Motion. It's called Mindset in Motion, and I have a framework called the Mindset in Motion framework. Mentorship to me is so important, and I'm sure it is to you. Can you share some of your mentors and how they inspired you and helped you in your career?
Yeah, I've had mentors all along the way, and I kind of like the ones that formal and informal who push me hard, question my own thinking. One of the most impactful sort of friends, mentors I had as twice an inflection point in my life listened to something I told them and said, "That's a great story you're telling yourself, but I think it's a lie. Why don't you rethink that?" And to me that's helpful, right? In terms of being challenged. I come from the generation where we were probably better with feedback than praise. I think it's flipped the other way now, where
Yes,
people are great with praise and don't know how to handle feedback. So I'm better with feedback than compliments in some cases. So in my first job where I really overperformed, I had an amazing mentor, and I think this is what's missing today. I think you want someone who both supports you but raises the bar at the same time, right? Like makes you think you can do more and holds you accountable to that.
right. Yes. Talk a little bit on my favorite word, accountability, or having an accountability partner. Um, Shares your thoughts on accountability and accountability partners.
Yeah, accountability is key, and there's a lot of way you can do that. You can do it with a journal, what I call individual accountability. You can have a partner who you check in with, and just because I have to send this email on Friday, at whatever the time is, and I know what the template is, it just makes me want to do it. And then there's the third one. There's also people who I say public accountability. They publish their goals on the internet. They tell everyone what they're going to do. They sort of put it out there. So if you show me anyone who's doing one or more of those, I'll show you someone who's much more likely to reach the goals or the accomplishments that they're targeting.
100%. I love it. Thank you for that. You talk a lot about elevating yourself and others. What does true elevation look like beyond titles and income?
Yeah, the framework behind my book Elevate is about building your capacity. So how across four spectrums, which is spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional. And for me, that's just the process of how we get better. How do we elevating is meeting your potential. It's moving up your performance, but I know the show's called Mastering the Art of Success. Success to me, and the difference from achievement is, achievement for a lot of people has a lot of external baggage around it. It's stuff that our parents wanted, our teachers wanted, our institutions wanted. The true definition of success is what it is that you wanted and got it. For some people, really what they want is to be sitting in a cabin in Montana reading books. And what they are is a radiologist working 80 hours a week, and they have a ton of money, but it's just not what they want to do in their soul. So it's hard to argue that that is success. So I think true success is like, what am I clear on my values? Am I clear on what I really want? For a lot of people, success might be a 3-day work week or the ability to be outside for 20 hours a week. It's not just the dollars in the bank account.
Absolutely. And do you coach as well, or do you have coaches you recommend, or is that part of what you do?
I do some very limited coaching. I do not market it at all. I have a very specific framework that starts with the core values discovery and strengths, and sort of building up from who are you, what do you value, and then how does that change the things that you're aligned to in your life. And usually people who are leading organizations and who have some crossover between personal and professional and family, and want to get that foundational stuff right.
Absolutely. In your experience, what's the biggest misconception leaders have about building a great company culture?
That has to appeal to everyone. I
Right.
think, having taking kids on college tours, I always say, there's a big difference between like a value proposition from the University of Michigan, a big city campus school, heavy fraternity, and maybe like a Bates, like a liberal arts school in Maine in the woods with no Greek system and different scene. It's not that one or the other is better, right?
Right.
But Bates doesn't pretend to be Michigan, and Michigan doesn't pretend to be Bates, right? I think they're comfortable that their value propositions are different. I see way too many leaders like, you should offend people, you should put off some people, right? There were these leaders that offended a lot of people because they decided they did not want politics in their company, and they were precluding politics from their company, which is feels like an apolitical statement. But if you're someone who really wanted politics at work, like, you can find a workplace like that. Other people don't. So to me, the great culture is the one that just honors a specific set of things, and it doesn't try to be anything to everyone.
That's true. You've been recognized as a top CEO by your employees. What's one leadership habit you practice consistently that most people overlook?
Um, I think it's really engaging with people on a personal level. One of my main things on one-on-ones is, "Hey, Debbie, how are you?" And
Right.
that's not a "How's work? How's the client going?" And the answer half the time is not good. My brother-in-law is going through a horrible divorce, and we have the kids this weekend, and whatever. And that's what they want to talk about. So I try to connect with people. I think these things are all connected to what's going on. I also really work on helping them understand themselves and their values, and what makes them tick, and inherently where that's going to be a problem, and where that's going to be like an asset for them. So I think that great leadership is. I'm not putting myself as the benchmark for this, but I would say, if I
Right.
think about other leaders I've had, great leadership is the ability to really care about people and hold them to high standards at the same time. I think some people are usually good at one of those and not the other. um,
Right.
you can care and have no standards, but as someone just said to me on a call I was on, like, at the end of the day, like, it's hard to have a happy team that's not winning, right? If everyone's really nice to each other, but no one's accountable for anything, like, and no one's winning at anything, it's hard to have a good culture.
Right. I love it. It's so great. No, and it's like I also think in just being it sounds like you're very available to your employees as well. I think that's super important. Your Friday Forward newsletter reaches hundreds of thousands of people. What inspired you to start it, and how did you know it was making an impact?
Um, I just started it after a leadership program where we talked about improving our morning routines and reading and writing and reading something that was positive. The sort of chicken soup for the soul type reading was not for me. Like I liked something that was a little more provocative, and so I just started writing that as a morning routine. I started sharing it with my company, and eventually I opened it up and threw some friends and family on it, and didn't, because people were sharing it outside the company. I really didn't think anything of it. It was something I enjoyed doing, and it just kind of kept spreading,
Wow.
because it was about an issue or a problem. I still, to this day, almost 10 years later, every week someone writes me a note and says, "This is the best Friday forward you've ever written."
Oh, I
And
love
that is not true. What is true is that whatever that message was, it just
right,
hit them at the right moment, and they were dealing with that problem, and it helped them clarify it or see it differently or make a good decision. And so that feels good. It feels like impacting people that I haven't even, met before.
right. It is fun when that happens. When it's exactly, you said it at the time that they really needed it. So you've written a lot for years now, probably. So what do you have some that stand out, maybe that people pointed out that they love, that is top of mind, and maybe some that you've written that you enjoy and you loved putting out?
Yeah, I had one about taking my son to the Super Bowl about years ago. They actually went hand in hand. That was sort of personal. The one that gets pointed out the most by far is this one called 18 Summers, about how you really, with your kids, you only have 18 summers before they're kind of gone to college, and sort of a reframing and some of the trips we decided to do and the things we decided to do. And that's particularly poignant now as I'm coming up to the 18th summer on my last kid at home, and it goes fast. But I still people I that hasn't been published for 5 years, and I see people linking to it on LinkedIn and still talking about it like so many years later.
Okay, if I had read that, I would have been sobbing for 18
Yeah,
years.
it's a tearjerker.
Time with the empty nest. So if I knew it was going to go that fast at that time, it would have been over.
Well, I joke now when they come home, I'm like, I'm so excited to see them, but they're
I
like
know.
outdoor cats, and that are coming back inside. And suddenly, there's a mess everywhere. People are coming in at 1 a.m. I can't find my clothes or my food. And I'm like, well, I love seeing you guys, but I was getting used to our lifestyle.
Right, it is true. You're like, they come in and all of a sudden there's stuff everywhere. As soon as my daughter comes in from New York, I'm like, oh my God. And I
Yeah,
really
like,
want,
I get these very specific, like, overnight oats every week, and because no one eats my food, and then they come home and my food's gone, so it just takes some readjustment for all of us.
so funny. That is so true. You often speak about core values. How can someone identify their personal core values if they've never done that work before?
Well, they should read my newest book, The Compass Within. That's really an entire story and a framework and a parable, that our mutual friend Bob Berg wrote one of the testimonies on. That watch as a young executive who's living through some core values challenges. He meets a mentor. He discovers his core values, and then figures out what needs to change and what can stay the same. And then the book shows you this framework on how to develop the core values. So I have a course around that too, but I do think the book is the easiest way to. It's not a how-to manual. That's the end. It's really a story that lets you see your life and yourself in this character, so that you understand what real core values look like.
Well, I have the book, so I'm very excited now that I've spoken to you. I'm going to pick it up and read it, and then I'll share it. I'm definitely
Perfect.
going to share the 18 Summers though post. People need to know about that. That's
Yeah,
so
that
true.
one's a tearjerker.
Yeah. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Robert Glazer. Thank you.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Robert Glazer. So this is so fun. Love everything you're saying. So let's go. I want to talk about this with every guest unless I have a kind of a soft intro to it, but you spoke about morning routine. So morning routine is super important for me. So can you tell us what your morning routine looks like?
Yeah, it's been messed up with some travel recently, but normally I wake up really without an alarm. I spend and this was also before we got a puppy 9 months ago. That has destroyed my morning routine. But I usually try to spend some quiet reading or writing, going over. I have a kind of one-page dashboard that has my goals for the year and core values and quarterly things, and it just makes me realign and recalibrate to what are the things I need to do today? What are the 3 things I need to do today? And then I kind of move that onto my list. And I used to do breakfast meetings. I stopped those about 7 or 8 years ago once I sort of realized, hey, I'm cognitively best in the morning and I wake up earlier as I get older, and a breakfast meeting knocks out my best time of the day. So I don't do breakfast meetings anymore except on rare occasion. And I think the most important thing is just to play offense for half hour to 45 minutes. If you start your day by turning on the news or taking in everything else and looking at the emails and everything that went wrong overnight, it's very hard to start your day. Like, it's very reactive rather than proactive.
Absolutely. I love that. So you are super busy. So how do you stay organized? Are there any apps or platforms you use to go through your day?
Yeah, my stack is, and with my team is, OneNote is my like hub. So everything goes into that and it has a place. And so I don't lose it. And then we use Notion for project management and then Slack for communication, and everything in Notion pings Slack. So like as I send out books, my assistant logs them and then Slack says this book was delivered. Right. And obviously we're playing around more AI tools, but I'm like an inbox zero person. I like the tool called SaneBox. When you email
Oh,
me, I either do something with it, I file it, I make it come back when it needs to come back, or I transfer it to my OneNote wherever it needs to go, so that nothing gets lost.
that's great. I love it. That's true. I use
Call it a
SaneBox.
containment system where nothing can get broken. Yeah, SaneBox gets rid of about 90% of your email, and you can look at it once a day, and it kind of puts all the junk stuff together.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. What's a moment in your career where a failure or setback ended up elevating you in an unexpected way?
Yeah, we had a board of advisors that I had put together when our company was younger. It was recommended. So we had that sort of board muscle before we needed it. And we had started diversifying and taking our eyes off the core business. And at some point, it just weren't doing well. And our board kind of handed it to us. And they were like, "You guys, what happened to you guys? You used to be swagger, and you kind of dust yourself off and deal with it." So we had a couple of those inflection points in the business. Again, having those people around you, the sort of tough love people, I think that's who you need in those times. I mean, particularly we had this woman, Jill Smith, on our board, and she was like, "What, you guys, like, you've lost all your swagger again. Like, get up and dust yourself off." I mean, that's much more helpful than, "Oh, I'm sorry. And it sounds like it's been a tough time. And, we went back and regrouped and we had diversified too much and we decided to focus and we really kind of locked in on the business.
I love it. In a world where burnout is common, how do high performers sustain excellence without sacrificing their health or relationships?
If you figure out and identify your personal core values and you spend time that's doing stuff that's most aligned to your values, you won't burn out. Burnout comes from doing stuff that depletes your energy. There's stuff that we all do and you all do that if you didn't pay me, I'd spend all night doing it and mess around with it, right? Because it connects to my values and my strengths. And there's other stuff where even 10 minutes of it just feels like I'm going into a buzzsaw. So to me, burnout is not a quality thing. It is a what you're spending your time on thing.
True. You've built and led remote and hybrid teams successfully. What's one mistake companies still make when trying to create connection in a virtual workspace?
Yeah, a lot of companies tried to just kind of use it as a recruiting tool to say we have remote work without setting up the infrastructure to do that. So I think you need to be very implicit around what remote means, what hybrid means, what expectations are. It's not just that you can do what you want. We always said we had flexibility with accountability, and the people that got the most flexibility were the most accountable. People who came to our company and just saw, oh, work from home, that means like I can do whatever I want. Were very much surprised that that is not the case.
And how are you flagging? I'm an independent contractor in real estate, and so I just naturally work hard. That's my nature. But
Yeah.
if someone is being paid to work and it's hard for me to understand. I've never worked in a big company. So how are you monitoring those people who are working from home? And is there a way to hold them accountable, or do you just know at some point
Yeah.
you're not performing?
We manage outcomes. I'm not in the weeds, but I manage outcomes, not inputs. If your performance sucks, and I can see that you're not putting in the hours, they're going to bring about that. But no one wants, if you have a salesperson that makes 40 calls a week and sells 10,000, and the next person make 80 calls and sells 5,000, you want the first salesperson, right? It's not about the input. So I think most organizations need to focus on outputs and reward. There was something going around LinkedIn yesterday where a boss said, you left 3 minutes early, so you have to make up 3 minutes elsewhere. I mean, that's just totally lost the plot at that point. Are they a top performer? Did they leave something hanging? That's just not the right way to manage people.
Yeah, that's true. What separates a good leader from a truly transformational leader?
I think a good leader, what maybe more of a manager, is someone who effectively organizes the parts, right? Takes the pieces and sort of organizes it and gets everyone moving in a direction. A transformational leader is someone that just makes everyone else better and that they want to follow. They want to work for that person. They don't have to work for that person. I think, Jim Collins' sort of level 5 definition is this: they make the organization better, they make everyone better, people want to be around them. I think just even the definition of a leader would be someone that you want to work for, not someone that you have to work
Definitely. If someone feels stuck in their career right now, what is one immediate action they can take this week to start elevating their trajectory?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but do the core values work. Go to robertglazer.com/6, answer the 6 core values questions. Because if you want to figure out what you should be doing, everyone wants to figure out the alignment piece. But I'm like, you can't figure out the alignment without knowing exactly how you would articulate your values and say, these are my values. Oh, totally makes sense why this community drives me nuts. I like this community. I don't want to be in this job. So if you are feeling stuck, the number one thing you can do is to clarify your values and then use that to make better decisions about where you spend your time and energy.
Love it. What are the core values that they'll, when they go to your robertglazer.com, what are the questions that they're going to be answering?
Yeah, the answers that they won't have is my core value is integrity or family or happiness, because that doesn't work as an actual core value. The questions will are around. They're a little different. Like what kind of work experiences were you really motivated and engaged? What were you doing? Where were you disengaged? What would you want people to say about you at your funeral? I mean, I was at a funeral this week, and God, I wish that person could have been there to see what people were saying about them, because it was utterly consistent and amazing. And I know that that is how that person, they wanted was impact. All they ever talked about in their life was impact, and they had 300 people showing up at their funeral talking about how they impacted them, right? And then there's some opposite questions, like what are the behaviors in others that really drive you nuts? And the point of that question is, often, the something that drives you crazy is the inverse of a value. It's the value being violated, so it's a good clue as to what the value might be.
Okay, that's a good one, because for me that is, I like answers right away. I want to send, and they're usually quick. I'm expecting just a quick response,
Yeah.
or a response, or that they'll get back. But just communication is so important to me. I don't like to wait. So that would be the opposite of my core, right? That
Yeah.
would be. I love it. That's so
If
true.
so if I said to you, what's the thing that drives you crazy? What would the
People who
boil
do
that?
not respond. People who do
People
not
that what?
respond.
Yeah.
People who do not respond in a timely fashion.
Right. So you like being responsive and reliable and someone who people can count on. That's probably a core value around that.
That is me,
I
110%.
can see you light up when I say that. So I always say, you can, before, when I ask these questions, I get the answers from the person's face before they respond. You can just kind of, see how
That's
it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so great. I love that. I can't wait to take the test. So you've written quite a few books. So let's talk about well, we can talk about whichever ones you want to talk about. We'll kick it off with how to thrive in a virtual workspace. What's the core value, or what's the highlight of that book?
Yeah, it came out of COVID. We were remote for over 10 or 15 years, won all sorts of best places to work awards. And so what happened was, the world stopped and everyone had to work from home. And all the people who told me we were crazy all those years were now calling and saying, I have to do this. And how do I do this? And I said, I'm having this conversation a lot. So why don't I gave some presentation. I was like, why don't I turn this into a book, and I'll give you the playbook that we used to do. So that's really where that book came from.
I love it. That's good. And I'm sure it's so helpful for people who are still in a virtual workplace, but they're not quite getting it right. So it would be good for those people to just kind of read it and see if they can add some more value to their workplace. Elevate your team. What's that one about?
It took the same framework that we used in Elevate, that capacity building framework, and it sort of expanded to how do you build capacity in your team. And so where Elevate was for anyone in the organization, Elevate Your Team was kind of for people who led teams but wanted to build that capacity in them.
Love it. And then there were 7 books. I didn't have all 7 of them here, but name them.
That we don't need to go through all of them, but
Okay.
they're all about leadership or marketing, and as I said, I think the compass within is the most important
Compass.
one, and really talks about how you can lean into those individual personal core values, not different from company core values. We all have individual values.
So the compass within is pretty much for anyone. It's
Compass
not,
Vision
doesn't,
is for anyone who wants to understand what it is they value and how they can use that for better relationships and community and leadership.
are there, so let's say someone's looking to find a new job or get a promotion or start a new business. Are there groups, community groups, masterminds, something that you recommend generally where you would direct people if they're looking for support and community?
Yeah, I think it just I just would direct them. I think masterminds are great. I've been a lot of them. They're industry specific, they're location specific. I've been a part of organizations like EO and YPO because I was running and founding businesses. There are ones for marketers, there's ones for doctors. But if you can find one of these peer oriented groups where it's really about getting better together and working, I think they are and they are and people are working and getting better collectively and individually. I think they're worth one of the most impactful things that I've done.
I think that's something that I didn't do early enough on. I've been in real estate 35 years, and I'm now only 2 years ago joined BNI. And I'm just finding, especially being an independent contractor, being part of it in a mastermind for realtors, it's so helpful. We're all independent,
Yeah.
but we're together. It's
They're
really,
all the same problems and challenges, and you hear what you hear from people, and you learn from them, from their experiences, and I think that's yeah.
it's very supportive. All right, some rapid fire questions. Morning routine or night owl productivity?
Oh, morning routine for sure. I think it's only like 7% of people are night owls.
Oh, really? Okay, because I'm definitely a morning person, not a night
Yeah.
owl. Book that changed your life, not your own.
That oh, not my own book. I was like, changed my life, but not my own. I was confused. I was really impacted by Atlas Shrugged when I read it in college. And I think it's some of the principles have carried with me through to today.
Can you share some of those?
Yeah, I find that like some of the characters that she described in that book, you just hear it. Like the politicians, you just hear them saying the same things, and I'm not as pure as the beliefs, but just on as someone who was sort of a trapped entrepreneur, seeing her the creators, and how people who create and people they needed them, but then they would try to tear them down. I think as I live my life, I've seen a lot of the scenes in that book and that story play out.
Love that. One word that defines great leadership.
Mm, consistency.
Good. Biggest energy drain for entrepreneurs.
People.
What is success is fill in the blank.
What you want most.
Exactly. So tell us about what does mindset mean to you, and how do you use it?
Yeah, the thing that keeps coming back all the time to me, and there's different levels of mindset, but there are just two types of people. There are people for whom they focus on the things that they control and the stoicism, and not and then people have obsessive focus on what they don't control, and that's your mindset, right? This
Mhm.
happened, how do I react, versus this is happening to me and woe is me, or otherwise. So there's a stimulus and a response. We don't control all the stimuluses, but we control the response. And to me, the most productive version of mindset is to focus on what's your side of the net and what you control, and not worry about on what's on the other side.
Very true. So you did a TED Talk, and maybe more than one. Share your TED Talk and what you discussed?
Yeah, it was actually the material behind my book, How to End 2 Weeks Notice, and it was about, I think, a program we institute in our company around open transition programs and how to change when people leave companies. What occurred to me was that people leave companies are more like sports teams. Like, you're going to play out your contract, you're going to leave, like no harm, no foul, but people act like it's a marriage when it comes to an end, and the betrayal and the mistrust. And if you, I'm like, the average tenure is 2.5 years. So why are we pretending that these are marriages? They're not marriages. They're short-term sports contracts. So can we change how people leave the organization? Can we encourage open dialogue and discussion, and get to sort of no fault car insurance, where we just decided it was time for a transition? Everyone wants to know, were they fired or did they quit? Well, what does it matter, right? Like, what if we could remove that distinction altogether?
Absolutely. So you are a traveler, and you like what we know, writing and speaking, but tell us where you've traveled to and where are you off to next?
Most immediately, I'm going out to Utah, which is sort of my happy place, although they don't have a lot of snow this year. Happy in the winter. My wife and I spent some time for our anniversary in Italy last year. That was a phenomenal trip. It was a bucket list trip. It was our 25th. Our 20th got canceled because it was COVID, so we did it for our 25th. But I actually like a combination of places that I've been and I know the routine, and then places that are totally new and different and that are discovery.
Absolutely. So fun. My son, my daughter, and myself just got our Italian citizenship, so we're very excited
Oh,
about.
I love Italy. The food, the people. There's also like 15 trips you can do within Italy.
Right. Have you guys taken a cycling trip?
We did a like a multimodal trip, but cycling was part of it.
Nice. So before we wrap up, tell us anything you want to share about your books or anything you want to share with us.
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned, there's a course that goes with the Compass Within book. It's corevaluecourse.com. I mentioned it a few times because just again, what I've seen the unlock for people when they can actually articulate what they value and how to make some of those important decisions. So I know a lot of people had taken the course. I wrote the book because I think some people don't like to go straight into courses, but it's only an hour-long course and it sets you up with a framework. It's the same formula that's in the book. Otherwise, yeah, join that Friday Forward newsletter and you'll get a small, like 4 or 5 minute note from me every Friday, and I'll just give you something to reflect on or think about how you can do it better.
I love it. Well, I am going to log on to both of those, and both of those links will be in the show notes. And I thank you so much for being on the show. This was wonderful. Thank you, Robert.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.